Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I seek refuge in Allah from the accursed Satan. Nay, we hurl truth at falsehood until we knock out its brains. So this presentation is a follow-up to my last one, which was severely limited on this network. So we just keep going, keep bringing the information to the people, and by the help of Allah, we will be successful. Those of you who follow my page, you might have seen in my story where I posted that choosing to remain unvaccinated is the new pro-choice. So one of my Facebook followers from overseas, he didn't understand the reference. And some of you who are of a younger generation that live right here in America may not also understand that reference. But as you know, those of you who do know, with the pro-choice movement, they were telling the people, particularly our women, that, you have the rights over your body. It's your body. You can make a decision on whether to abort your child or to keep your child. And this is what is called pro-choice. They even went so far as to tell our teenage girls, imagine someone telling your daughter, one, it's okay for her to be promiscuous and have sex without her parents knowing, just use a contraceptive, or tell the young boys use a condom. And if you get pregnant, you don't have to tell your parents. You could just go to the clinic, abort your child, and just go on with your life. So this is what the government has done in terms of taking control of our power that we should rightfully have over our own children. And telling them, no, you don't have to listen to your parents on something serious as a pregnancy. Pro-choice. It's your right. It's your body. You do what you want to do with it. But here it is with this vaccine. They want to make it seem like we don't have a choice over our own body and what we put inside of our body. So we have to make this the new pro-choice. It's my body. I shouldn't have to choose between my job and what I put into my body. I shouldn't have to choose between whether I eat outside or eat in a restaurant because of a decision I make with my body. I shouldn't be banned from attending a theater, indoors with my family. I shouldn't have these type of limits and restrictions on my social life because I choose what to do with my body. So on one end, the government is teaching our children to be independent of their parents, but only be dependent on them. And that if your parents have a problem with it, you talk to us. In other words, we'll check your parents for you. Wow. But then they're telling the parents and the adults in the society that no, we decide what you should put into your body. And if you don't go with it, then they're sending down these decrees, which are actually a punishment for those who choose to remain unvaccinated. So what we want to do today is continue to talk about these rationales that they are using to pressure the public into taking the vaccine. So let's look at here in New York State, for instance. Governor Cuomo, he announced that he was stepping down today. They set up a law in New York where you could no longer object to taking a vaccine based on religion. So they have imposed on our religious right. Think about that. They are imposing on our religious right to say that we object to a vaccine for religious reasons. Now they're also, again, imposing on our social life by decrees, which is not democratic at all. You know, in democracies, people are supposed to make the decisions, but they send down decrees. Now, this went well during the height of the pandemic, when there was a major outbreak here in New York City. We were losing hundreds of people per week. So, this was a real crisis. So during the crisis, a lot of us were okay with that. We were okay with these restrictions. We were okay with being on lockdown. We were okay, wearing a mask, when you go out in public. We were okay with this because there was a serious crisis. I mean, from my window, I heard ambulances all day long. And I actually knew many people who died from this coronavirus during the height of the crisis. However, the decisions you make when the state is in a state of emergency is not the same type of decisions you make when the state of emergency has gone away. So what they have done, the governor and the mayor, I'm just speaking from New York State and New York City, they have kept the same powers that they had, that they justifiably had during a crisis, and carried them over into this period where there's not a crisis. But they're playing a mental game. So right now there's like this high level psychological warfare going on, where they're playing with numbers and statistics and creating a scare where there is none. I'll give you an example. And this is not, you can look this up. There was a statement by the media that COVID is up 299%. Now you hear that number, wow, COVID is up 299%. Wow, percent. So if, a lot of us didn't do too well in math, but if you know anything about math, you should ask the question, 299% of what? So when I looked at the actual quantity, it was 299% of 10. So what is 299% of 10? 3. However, they don't tell you the quantity in the news report. They just give you that percentage, that high percentage. COVID rate is up 299%. Scare the heck out of you. Oh my God, I have to get vaccinated. It's what we call in the Nation of Islam tricknology. And I'm kidding you not. You go look. the deaths in New York City, the deaths in New York State, I should say, this past weekend, I think it was only 10 for the whole weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So COVID deaths in New York State are way down. Why is this martial law style decrees coming from the governor and the mayor? And the COVID deaths are way down from 2020, where we had hundreds of people dying every week. We had morgues with bodies piled up. Probably some bodies are still piled up from 2020 right now. And now we got 10. And they're putting this spin of a 299% increase. Everyone must get vaccinated, or you can't go to school, denying you an education. Think about that. So this is what we're fighting right now. And this is why they are putting restrictions, particularly on this social media platform, on anyone or any presentation that exposes their, I'm going to use the Nation of Islam term, tricknology. Tricknology. So what I want to talk about today is, really, I didn't put the title on here just yet because, as soon as you put the title on, they vandalized the video. They probably vandalized it already because I used the V word. So they're probably going to put that vandalization link on this video. But, the title of this presentation is real simple, and I'm going to lay down, I'll give you some scientific links and scientific basis for this question, this theory. Is or are the mass vaccination the cause of the Delta variant? Question mark. I got to make that clear. Are the mass vaccinations the cause of or behind the Delta variant? That's the question. So let's look at some facts to see if this parallel adds up. So earlier this year, I did a presentation back in late January or early February, actually, I did a presentation. And I read from the statistics of the NVSS, which is the National Vital Statistics System. Now, if you would recall, when the vaccines first rolled out, black people were not getting the vaccine. And if you remember, Governor Cuomo was criticizing black people, for several things. We weren't wearing our masks, we weren't observing social distancing, and then when the vaccines came out, we were resisting to get vaccinated. So a lot of our people were fighting to get vaccinated. That was a trick. You see, the psychology is if you hold something back from somebody, they're going to want it. But if you push it on somebody, then they'll back up off it. So they understand that these people understand psychology, man. These are not dumb people. The Honorable Minister was Farrakhan, and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad called them wickedly wise. So they purposely put the vaccinations primarily, first and foremost, among their people. Which really, I'm going to say this as a side note, we should not have been upset because this is an experimental vaccine. And usually they experiment on black people first. That's what the book Medical Apartheid is about. How they usually experiment with their new medicines, their new everything, food on black people to see how it will affect us first. So here it was where they were changing their behavior And given the vaccine, if you want to call it a vaccine, I'll talk about that later. If you want to call it a vaccine, hopefully I'll remember to discuss that. To white people first. And look at what happened. According to the National Vital Statistics System, in August of 2020, the COVID cases among white people, or COVID deaths among white people, were only at like 51%. After the rollout of the vaccine, which was in late 2020, by the time January rolled around, the COVID rate among white people shot up 7%. And in that same period, COVID rate, COVID deaths, COVID hospitalizations, etc., went down over 4% among black people who were not getting the vaccine. So this is what the numbers say. As I said in my last presentation, the study that was done in the 10 counties in California, and how the counties who did not take the vaccine had a decrease of cases that were that had the least number of consumption, if you will, of the vaccine. Their COVID numbers and deaths, their hospitalizations and deaths decreased, while the counties that took had high rate of vaccination, their COVID numbers increased, and they had an increase of what are called breakthrough cases, meaning people who are fully vaccinated still being hospitalized and dying from COVID. So here are clear parallels from the National Vital Statistics System study back in January, and the study they recently did in California, and the study they also did in Massachusetts, where 74% of the new cases were among the fully vaccinated. So the question that I'm raising in this presentation: are the mass vaccinations the cause for the Delta variant? So let me read something about a variant. A variant is when a virus mutates. So let me read something, and this is from Nature Microbiology. This is a scientific website, Nature Microbiology. And the title of this particular medical journal is "We Shouldn't Worry When a Virus Mutates During Disease Outbreaks." I'm going to say that again. We shouldn't worry when a virus mutates during disease outbreaks. They say further, mutation, the word naturally conjures, fears of unexpected and freakish changes. Ill-informed discussions, I'm going to say that again, ill-informed, meaning discussions that are not well-informed, where there was no research done and no scientific knowledge or data or analysis. These are called ill-informed discussions of mutations thrive during virus outbreaks, meaning people are talking about stuff and they don't know what they're talking about, including the ongoing spread of SARS-CoV-2, which is also known as COVID-19. In reality, mutations are a natural part of the virus life cycle and rarely, think about this, impact outbreaks dramatically. So what they're basically saying is that viruses naturally mutate. And they rarely impact an outbreak. However, in this case, it's having an impact. And this is why I raised the question, are mass vaccination the cause of the Delta variant? So this goes back to the word vaccinations, right? First of all, most people agree, and I agree with them, that this shot that they're giving the people does not meet the standard of a vaccination. This shot that they're giving the people does not reach the standard of a vaccination. Why not? Because in a vaccination, a real vaccination, if it's a flu vaccination, you're supposed to give a small percentage of the flu, put it into a shot, give it to the person, allow the person's body to develop antibodies against that flu so that it can fight against the flu. This is what you do with smallpox and cowpox or whatever. You put a sample of the actual disease in the vaccination. They didn't do this with the so-called vaccination. They didn't put COVID inside there. They put other things inside there. Yes. So most people say this is not really a vaccination. However, let's say you are asymptomatic and you have the actual COVID virus in you already, and they give you a shot that imitates and triggers the antibodies as if it was a real virus, because that's what the shot is designed to do, then your virus, your asymptomatic virus, which you are not showing any signs of, is going to naturally mutate, because that's what viruses do. So when they naturally mutate, it causes a variant. That's all a variant is, a mutation of the original virus. So the COVID-19 virus is mutating. So I will use the word advent or of the mass vaccines, suddenly this Delta variant appears, directly paralleling the mass vaccinations. So for me, knowing the nature of how viruses mutate, there's no question in my mind that it is the mass vaccinations that triggered the whole new Delta variant. That's why in places that are under-vaccinated, the COVID cases are going down. And the places that are vaccinated, the COVID cases are going up. So, let's talk about this densely populated situation, and I'm going to close out on this. So the way a virus, what happens during an outbreak is that, first of all, Africans invented the first inoculations. Let me put it like this. America learned inoculations or vaccination from black people and African. Okay, that's number one. And the Muslim world in general were the first to give out vaccination. So again, I say all the time, I'm not anti-vaccination or true vaccination. I am not against that. But that's not what this shot is. And that's the problem. So, what a vaccination does, it imitates or supposed to accelerate what is called herd immunity. Now, herd immunity, which I truly, undoubtedly believe that we have achieved in New York because of our dense population. Because of our dense population, a lot of us have been exposed to COVID knowingly or unknowingly because we're so densely populated. You know, it's so easy to bump into people. It's so easy to be within somebody's space, just walking down the street. You get on an elevator with people. A lot of these masks really don't block out anything. You know, they're cheap. And a lot of us have been exposed, I believe, to the COVID. And that's why the cases are way down in New York State. So dense population actually helps to accelerate herd immunity, because the more people are exposed, the more, when you're exposed on a low level, your body develops antibodies to fight against it, which will make you what's called asymptomatic. But in California, they're trying to make it seem like the dense population is a bad thing. No, dense population actually helps herd immunity. So what the virus is supposed to do is help to accelerate that process. But when you put a shot in somebody's arm that is not a virus, then you force the virus to mutate and take an unnatural, naturally, however, it causes the virus to mutate to a variant that the body cannot fight off, even though the person is quote unquote fully vaccinated, because they are not vaccinated with the original virus. So how could it fight the variant if it hasn't been vaccinated with the original virus? I hope you follow that. I'm going to say it one more time. If this shot that they're giving to people does not have the COVID in it, then how could your body fight the variant of the virus if it was not given the original virus? So this is why you have 1,400 known. There are a whole lot more that are unknown breakthrough cases where the fully vaccinated have been hospitalized and died from the Delta variant. So again, let me, this playing with the percentages. So they're like, oh, well, that's nothing. That's less than 1%. When I was out there selling the paper this past weekend, it was either Saturday, I believe it was Saturday. And, these two sisters walked up to me and I explained that to them. I told them about the 1,400. And they were like, well, that's less than 99% of the millions that have been vaccinated. That doesn't concern me. I said, it concerns me. She says, why? Because I don't want to be 1401. And she laughed. She couldn't argue with that. So now suppose they turn the percentages around and say, like they're saying in California, 299%, or that the breakthrough cases, meaning those who are fully vaccinated and dying from the coronavirus, is up 299%. They could give that type of percentage for the 1,400. Yes, they can. So they give high percentages for small amounts to create a scare, like COVID is up 299% and the quantity is only 10. But then they say, oh, the 1,400 represents less than 1%, instead of saying the breakthrough cases are going up 10,000%. Because that would be kind of accurate. The breakthrough cases are going up tremendously, percent-wise. So this is the tricknology where they, they know what to say. They know what to say to scare you, and they know what to say to minimize your fear into doing what they want you to do. So may Allah bless us with the light of understanding, and may Allah bless us to stay strong. Don't let them make you afraid. And just let people say this about Islam. The reason why they created this stir and fear about Islam. I'm a Muslim. I'm very Muslim. And the reason why they like to create this fear about Islam, because, you know, one thing, they teach you in Islam, fear no one but God. See, rulers don't like you to fear no one but God. They want you to fear them. So as long as they get us to fear them, they control us through fear. That's why a lot of you are running out, taking a shot. You don't want to lose your job. You don't want, oh man, I want to fly and see my family. They're controlling you through fear. There's no outbreak here in New York State. There's no outbreak in a lot of places. There's no major outbreak. But they make you afraid, and you do something to your body that may potentially harm you. You might be 1401 because they made you afraid. And this is why they don't like Islam, because Islam say fear no one but God. They don't make us terrorists and blow ourselves up and kill ourselves and go out and kill people. No, it just makes us not fear and not give in to their fear tactics. And I pray, Allah, that all of you will take on that same type of courage and fear God and God alone. May Allah bless us all with the light of understanding. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be unto you and the blessings of God.